Welcome to Reddy Technologies. Selenium test environment. See, test environment setup is an essential part in software testing process. Whether it is manual testing or automation testing, test environment setup is an essential part in the test process. What is test environment? See, configuring computer environment to write and execute test cases. Configuring computer environment. See, server computer, client computers, network. Next, required software. See, required hardware plus software plus network. This is software test environment. Next, define, setup and verify the test environment. See, according to formal test process, see, some companies may not follow formal test process formalities, but according to formal test process, test lead or test manager defines test environment setup based on requirement specification document, SRS document. See what to install, like. Next, who set up that one? See, test lead or test manager defines the test environment setup based on SRS document. Next, setup. See, technical support people, tech support people, system administrator or network administrator, like tech support people set up the test environment based on that definition, test environment definition. See, test lead knows what to install, technical support people know how to install. Next, verify the test environment. See, testers or you can say team members verify the test environment while test execution phase. In test execution phase, before going to execute test cases. Next, Selenium test environment. See, Selenium is an automation test tool. Automation test tool. See, this is for functional test automation. Okay. How to install Selenium test environment? Say, Selenium test environment is dynamic. Why? Suppose UFT, formerly QTP tool is, UFT tool is there, RFT tool is there, so many other tools are there. Say, suppose if you want to install UFT, install it and launch and work with UFT. RFT also, install RFT software, launch RFT tool, write test cases and execute. But Selenium test environment setup is not like that. Selenium is an open source tool. That is one. Next important concept is Selenium is not an all-inclusive test tool. So it requires some third-party plugins and frameworks in order to broaden the scope of testing. Means Selenium is not a complete tool. It requires some third-party plugins and frameworks in order to broaden the scope of testing. But we use all open source tools for supporting, all open source software for supporting Selenium. Okay. Say, suppose if it is UFT, Unified Functional Testing, if we install that tool, all the tool features can be installed. You can start using UFT tool after installation. Okay. Suppose UFT programming, VB script engine built in with UFT software. Next, MS Access Engine built in with UFT to write SQL statements for database testing. Next, UFT has an integrated spreadsheet for data related operations. Next, UFT has so many built-in features: recording, checkpoints, output values, object repositories. Next, recovery scenarios for handling runtime errors, built-in result reporting facility, etc. But already I told, Selenium is not an all-inclusive test tool. So it requires some third-party plugins and frameworks. And one more thing, already I told, Selenium test environment is dynamic. Yes. Why? See, Selenium supports 6 programming languages to write and execute test cases: Java, Python, C Sharp, Ruby, JavaScript, and Kotlin. Suppose if you select Java for Selenium, environment setup is one way. Suppose if you select Java for Python, environment setup is different. Suppose C Sharp with Selenium, that is different. So Selenium test environment setup depends on the programming language that we select. Next, in the industry, nearly 70% market share is Java with Selenium, or you can say Selenium with Java. Nearly 70% market share means Selenium testers are using Java with Selenium for Selenium automation. Remaining 5 languages only having 30%. Okay, here for explaining this Selenium test environment, I am selecting Java. Okay, if you select Java for programming, then supported IDE, integrated development environment, Eclipse IDE, or you can use the others, NetBeans like. Suppose if it is UFT, RFT like test tools, built-in editors available for writing and executing test cases. But Selenium WebDriver test tool in our scenario, Selenium WebDriver doesn't have built-in features. First of all, it doesn't have UI, user interface. It is an API, application programming interface. We need to write code for each and every functionality or each and everything. Okay, just a minute, I am selecting one more tool also. Just a minute. I am selecting one more tool. Test Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid. Okay. Say first select Selenium tools and other plugins and frameworks for Selenium test environment. For example, I selected Java for Selenium. Supported framework is either TestNG or JUnit. I am selecting TestNG. It is advanced one. Here NG stands for next generation. TestNG inspired by JUnit and added some new functionalities. Okay, I selected Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid test tools. Next, Eclipse IDE for writing and executing test cases editor. Next, Java for programming to enhance test cases. TestNG as test runner testing framework. Next, Maven is a build automation tool for Java projects. Our purpose is Selenium test environment setup and maintenance. Auto setup and auto maintenance. Next, extend reports. It is for enhancing test result. Okay. First, Selenium WebDriver. Selenium WebDriver installation process. First, install Java software and set up Java environment variable in order to access Java software from any directory in your computer. Next, download and install Eclipse IDE. Next, download Selenium WebDriver and add Selenium WebDriver jar files in Java with Java project in Eclipse IDE. Next, download and install TestNG plugin for Eclipse IDE. Next, Maven built-in with Eclipse IDE latest versions. Extend report, download and install extend reports plugin for enhancing test results. Next, configure Selenium Grid for parallel testing. Okay, first Eclipse IDE. What is the role of Eclipse IDE in our Selenium test environment? See, it provides an editor to write and execute Selenium test cases. Editor. Already I told, Selenium WebDriver is an API. It doesn't have built-in editor as well as built-in features. Next, not only for writing and executing test cases, Eclipse IDE provides one important functionality. We can integrate Selenium with other software in Eclipse IDE. We integrate Selenium with Java, TestNG, Maven, Extend Reports, etc. plugins in Eclipse IDE. Next, Java programming. Java. Say, Java primary purpose is software application development. Our purpose is secondary, writing and executing test cases. Say, Java for enhancing our test cases. See, Selenium WebDriver is test tool in our environment. It recognizes or locates or identifies web elements in web pages and performs actions on web elements. Next, Java for enhancing test cases means handling data in test cases using Java data types and variables. Next, applying control flow to Selenium test cases, conditional statements, etc. Next, if you want to conduct repetitive execution, for that you can use loop statements for data-driven testing. Next, Java file handling feature for preparing and using test data. Next, Java methods for creating reusable functions for test cases. Next, Java exception handling code for handling runtime errors in Selenium, etc. See, Java programming, not only Java, any other programming, any other supported programming, Python, C#, etc. for enhancing test cases. And one more thing, Selenium WebDriver doesn't interact with the databases directly. With the help of programming language only, Selenium can communicate with backend databases. See, Java has an API called JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. Using JDBC API, Selenium can communicate with backend databases like Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL Server, etc. Next, TestNG. See, this is testing framework. Unit test tool. Basically, it is unit test tool, but we are using TestNG for system testing with Java. It is Java compatible. Suppose if you select Python, another testing frameworks, suppose PyUnit or PyTest. If you select Java for Selenium, supported frameworks, either JUnit or TestNG. I selected TestNG. Next, if you select C#, supported framework is NUnit. Say, testing framework selection depends on your programming language. What is the role of TestNG in our Selenium test environment? Say we use testing framework like TestNG as test runner in our Selenium test environment. When it comes to detailed description, testing framework for creating test batches, prioritizing test cases, executing test batches, generating important one test results. Say Selenium WebDriver doesn't have built-in result report facility. Using testing framework, we can generate test results. Next, Maven. Maven is build automation tool for Java projects, Java application, Java software applications. In our Selenium environment, we use Maven for auto test environment setup and maintenance. Without Maven also, we can manually set up the test environment and maintain. But if you use Maven, there is an automatic process, optimized way. Next, extend reports framework. It is for enhancing Selenium test results. See, for generating Selenium test results, we use a TestNG framework. If we add extend reports plugin, then we can enhance our test results. For example, if you want to capture screenshots for failed steps, you can capture. That is one example. Next, Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid also one of the Selenium tools in the Selenium tools suite. It is for parallel testing. I selected the Selenium Grid in my environment for parallel testing. First of all, Selenium Grid doesn't support writing test cases, only executing test cases. Then you can ask one question. Suppose Selenium WebDriver can support writing Selenium test cases and executing test cases. Then why Selenium Grid for only executing test cases? Okay, using Selenium WebDriver. Selenium WebDriver is complete test tool. A complete test tool means for designing and executing test cases with the support of other plugins. Okay, but if you want to execute your test cases in parallel, we have to use Selenium Grid. Say, suppose you created 200 Selenium WebDriver test cases. If you want to execute these 200 test cases using Chrome browser, Firefox browser and Edge browser on Windows environment and Mac environment, Linux environment, based on that customer requirement, it is time-taking process. If you want to execute test cases one by one, suppose if you select Selenium Grid, Selenium Grid can execute Selenium WebDriver test cases in parallel. You can take suppose 3 computers, host computer and guest computers. You can distribute the load. Say on first computer, execute 200 test cases using Chrome browser, on second computer using Edge browser, on third computer using Firefox browser, etc. Suppose next step, on first computer execute your 200 test cases using Microsoft Windows operating environment, next Linux environment, next Mac environment, etc. Like that. See, this is about importance of Selenium test environment. Not only Selenium test environment, software test environment. And one more thing, say in software test life cycle, phases of software test life cycle, test environment setup is an important phase. See, what are the phases of STLC or software test lifecycle, requirements analysis, test planning, next test design, next fourth phase, test environment setup, next fifth phase, test execution, last phase, sixth phase, test cycle closure. Thank you.